My name is Eliza, and I'm 34. For the last decade, my primary role in my family has been the fixer. While my younger brother Ryan played the part of the tortured artist, I was the one working 80-hour weeks, quietly paying for the collateral damage he left in his wake. I'm a chef. I own a small, critically acclaimed restaurant in downtown Austin, a dream I clawed into existence with my own two hands and every penny I'd ever saved. Before we move further, please subscribe to my channel and make sure to share your thoughts in comment section because I read every single comment. My family, especially my mother, saw my restaurant not as my life's work, but as a convenient solution to their Ryan problem. They guilt-tripped me, begged me, to give him a job, to save him from himself. I caved. It was the single worst decision of my life. 6 months later, I was on the brink of bankruptcy, my dream turning to ash in my mouth. I discovered my sensitive brother hadn't just been stealing from me. He had been systematically gutting my business from the inside, faking invoices and skimming cash to the tune of over $60,000. When I confronted them, my parents didn't apologize. They defended him. They told me to be the bigger person and just absorb the loss. They called Nyman Sums Heartless for wanting to press charges. They had no idea I had a choice to make, and it wasn't between my brother and my restaurant. It was between their financial ruin and my own. And I was done setting myself on fire to keep them warm. Growing up in our suburban Texas home was a masterclass in unspoken rules. Rule number 1, Ryan is special. Rule number 2, Eliza is responsible. Rule number 3, when Ryan fails, which he always did, Eliza's responsibility is to fix it, and Mom's responsibility is to explain why it wasn't his fault. Ryan is 4 years younger than me, but in terms of emotional maturity, he's permanently stuck at about age 15. He's got that lazy charm that people mistake for depth, a mop of curly hair, and a complete, almost philosophical aversion to hard work. My parents, my mom mostly, diagnosed him early on as a creative soul, a label that gave him a lifetime pass to be a selfish, unreliable mess. I remember my senior year of high school. I was juggling AP classes, a part-time job at a greasy diner, and a ruthless scholarship application grind. I'd come home exhausted, smelling like fries, to find Ryan, then a freshman, chilling on the couch, surrounded by a mess of video game controllers and empty snack bags. When I'd ask him to do his one chore, take out the trash, my mom would swoop in. "Leave him be, Eliza," she'd say, her voice tight with that defensive tone she always got. "He's had a stressful day. He's sensitive." His sensitivity was a bottomless pit. I worked my tail off to get a full-ride scholarship to a decent state school for their business program, knowing damn well my parents had nothing saved for me. Ryan, on the other hand, decided he wanted to be a musician. My parents, who had told me they couldn't afford to help with my application fees, scraped together enough money to buy him a brand new Gibson Les Paul guitar and a stack of expensive amps. He used it for 3 months, learned exactly 4 chords, badly, and then declared that the industry was too commercial for his art. The guitar still sits in his old bedroom, a $5,000 dust collector. My dream was always food, not just cooking it, but the business of it, the chaos of the kitchen, the precision of the numbers, the joy of watching someone's face light up after taking that first bite. After college, I moved to Austin, a city buzzing with an insane food scene. I worked in some of the best and toughest kitchens in the city. I was a line cook, a sous chef, a manager. I worked brutal hours, saved every single dollar I could, lived in a tiny, crappy apartment with 3 roommates, and skipped every vacation, every party, every brunch. My entire life was a laser beam focused on one goal, my own restaurant. While I was building a career, Ryan was building a resume of failures. He'd tried being a photographer, a poet, a brand strategist, which seemed to involve him just having a lot of opinions on Instagram. Each career was funded by my parents, who were now dipping into their retirement savings to support his journey. Then, tragedy struck. My grandmother, my dad's mom, and the one person who had always seen me, passed away. She left me a small inheritance, $80,000. It was the final piece of my puzzle. That money, combined with my own savings and a small business loan, was exactly what I needed. After a year of scouting locations and gut renovating a small, neglected space, the Juniper was born. It was my baby, a tiny 30-seat bistro focused on sustainable, locally sourced food. It was everything I had ever dreamed of. The first few months were a blur of terror and exhilaration. 18-hour days were the norm. I was the chef, the manager, the bookkeeper, the janitor. But it was working. We got a couple of glowing reviews in the local papers. We were booked out weeks in advance. I was finally, after a decade of grinding, on the verge of success. And that's when the Ryan problem landed on my doorstep. Literally. My parents drove down from Dallas, unannounced, with Ryan in tow. He looked terrible, sullen, pale, and reeking of cheap beer. He got into some trouble, Eliza, my mom explained in a hushed, frantic whisper in my kitchen, while Ryan stared blankly at my menu. He'd been fired from his latest gig, a data entry job he'd held for a record-breaking 2 months, for not showing up, and his roommates had finally kicked him out for not paying rent. He was, once again, at rock bottom. He needs a fresh start, my mom pleaded, her eyes welling up with tears, her signature move. He needs a purpose. You're doing so well, honey. The restaurant is beautiful. Couldn't you give him a job? Just something simple. Washing dishes? Bussing tables, just to get him back on his feet. I felt the old, familiar trap closing in. I looked at my dad, who was just staring at his shoes, offering no support. I looked at Ryan, who hadn't even bothered to join the conversation. My gut, my brain, my entire nervous system was screaming, time and oh, time. This was my sanctuary, the one place his chaos couldn't touch. Mom, I don't think that's a good idea, I said firmly. This is a high-pressure environment. It's not. Please, Eliza. She cut me off, her voice breaking. I'm begging you. I'm so worried about him. He's depressed. He needs his family. He needs you. If you turn him away, I don't know what will happen. The guilt was a physical weight, pressing down on my chest. Here was my mother, in tears, begging me to save her son. How could I say no? How could I be the heartless daughter who turned her back on her sensitive brother in his time of need? Fine, I said, the word tasting like defeat. He can wash dishes. But that's it, Mom. He shows up on time, he works hard, and he follows my rules. 1 strike, and he's out. I mean it. Oh, thank you, baby, she cried, hugging me. You won't regret this. You'll see. This is just the new start he needs. I did regret it. I regretted it, almost immediately. For the first 2 weeks, Ryan was a model employee. He showed up, mostly, on time. He washed dishes. He was quiet, polite, almost humble. My small, tight-knit kitchen staff was wary of him. They were pros, and he was clearly a tourist, but they were kind. I started to let myself believe that this might actually work. Maybe he had finally hit his rock bottom. Maybe this was the new leaf. Then, my mom called. I'm so glad things are going well, honey. She gushed. But don't you think washing dishes is a little beneath him? You know how smart he is. It might be good for his self-esteem if you gave him a little more responsibility. Responsibility? Like what? I asked, already dreading the answer. Well, you look so tired all the time, running the books and all that, she said lightly. Ryan was always good with numbers. Why don't you let him help you in the office? He could, manage the payroll. Give you a break. Ryan. Good with numbers. The man who had flunked basic accounting twice and couldn't budget his way out of a paper bag. The idea was so insane it was almost funny. Mom, absolutely not. I handle the finances. Period. Well, just something, Eliza. He's feeling a little discouraged. Maybe he could be a manager? A front-of-house manager? I was desperate. My current manager had just given her 2 weeks' notice. Finding a good replacement on my small budget was going to be a nightmare. I looked at Ryan, who was half-heartedly sweeping the floor. He was family. He was already here. Maybe a simple customer-facing role would be good for him. Fine, I said, a decision that would haunt my nightmares. He can be an assistant manager. He'll shadow my outgoing manager, Sarah, for the next 2 weeks. He'll handle seating, oversee the waitstaff, and that's it. I will still handle all the cash, all the books, all the vendor payments. My mother was thrilled. Ryan, for his part, seemed to perk up at the promotion. He got a new haircut, started wearing collared shirts, and I, stupidly, let myself be fooled. For the next few months, things seemed to level out. The restaurant was busier than ever. We were getting glowing write-ups in the Austin papers. I was working 18-hour days, in a state of perpetual, caffeine-fueled exhaustion. I was so focused on the kitchen, on the food, on my dull job, that I let Ryan handle the front of house, including the end-of-night cash-out and register reports. That was my first critical mistake. My second was trusting him. The problem started small. A vendor called, an artisan cheesemaker I had a great relationship with. Hey, Eliza, he said, sounding awkward. Just checking on that last invoice. It's about 2 weeks overdue. No biggie. Just wanted to make sure you got it. I was mortified. I prided myself on paying my local suppliers on time. I'm so sorry, Tom, I said, scrambling for my checkbook. I'll pay that right now. I assumed I had just missed it in my exhausted haze. Then my linen supplier called. Same story. An invoice from 3 weeks ago. Unpaid. Ryan. I called him into my tiny back office, trying to keep my voice calm. What's going on with these invoices? I thought you were handling the paid file. Oh, weird, he said, looking at the invoices with wide, innocent eyes. No. I paid those. The bank must have messed up. Let me look into it. He seemed so concerned, so responsible, that I believed him. But the financial ship was starting to take on water, fast. I was constantly stressed. Despite the fact that we were booked solid every single night, the numbers just weren't adding up. The profit margins, which should have been growing, were shrinking. Payroll felt tighter every week. I was covering costs with my personal credit cards, telling myself it was just startup growing pains. You're just stressed, Ryan would tell me, patting my shoulder in a horribly condescending, brotherly way. You need to relax, Liza. Let me handle the small stuff. And I let him. I was too damn tired to argue. I was too deep in the weeds of menu development and staff scheduling to do the deep dive audit I knew, in my gut, I should be doing. The iceberg hit on a Monday, our one day closed. I was going over the books, trying to figure out how we could possibly be losing money when we were so busy. I was cross-referencing my bank statements with the register reports that Ryan dutifully printed and left on my desk every night. A number jumped out at me. An invoice from Premium Beverage Distributors for $1,200. I frowned. I didn't use Premium Beverage. I used a small, local distributor. I pulled the full invoice from the file Ryan had managed. It looked legit, on its surface. But something about the logo felt off. It was slightly pixelated, just a tiny bit blurry. On a hunch, I Googled Premium Beverage Distributors Austin. Nothing. No website. No address. No phone number. My heart started to pound, a sick, heavy beat in my chest. I looked at the bank statement again. The payment hadn't been a check. It had been an electronic transfer to an account I didn't recognize. I started pulling other invoices. Artisan Meat Company, -$800. Specialty Produce, -$1,100. All vendors I had never heard of. All with slightly off-looking invoices. All paid via direct electronic transfer. My hands were shaking. I wasn't just looking at shoddy bookkeeping. I was looking at a systematic, deliberate fraud. Ryan was creating fake invoices for phantom companies, and then paying those companies directly from my business account. And where was that money going? It wasn't hard to find out. The account numbers on the transfers were all different, but the routing numbers for 2 of them were the same. I did a quick reverse search on the routing number. It belonged to a small, online-only bank. This was beyond my ability to fix. I called my accountant, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Maria. I need you to come to the restaurant, I said, my voice trembling. Right now. I think I'm being embezzled. Maria was at my restaurant within an hour, her laptop bag in hand. She took one look at my face and the disorganized pile of invoices on my desk and just said, "Start from the beginning. Give me every document you have." For the next 4 hours we sat in silence, broken only by the click of her keyboard and my occasional, choked explanations. She was a financial bloodhound. She logged into my bank accounts, my payroll system, my credit card statements. She cross-referenced everything. The deeper she dug, the paler she got. "It's not just the fake invoices, Eliza," she said finally, turning the laptop to face me. Her voice was cold. "That's just the tip of the iceberg." She showed me the numbers, laid out in stark, undeniable black and white. Ryan wasn't just creating phantom vendors. He was skimming cash from the daily deposits. He would report, for example, a $3,000 cash night, but the bank deposit slip would only show $2,500. He was adjusting the digital register logs, times after times printing the end-of-night report for me, then pocketing the difference. But that wasn't even the worst of it. "Look at this," Maria said, pointing to my business credit card statement. A card I used only asterisk for kitchen supplies. "What's Sky High VR Arcade?" My stomach dropped. $800. And premium sneaker drops? $1,200. And what, for the love of God, is a monthly $400 charge for Scribe's Destiny Elite membership? A video game. He was paying for his high-end video game subscription with my business card. Car payments. Bar tabs. Online gambling sites. It was all there. A systematic, parasitic draining of my business, my dream, my Tranas life. All to fund his pathetic, childish lifestyle. "What's the total?" I whispered, afraid to hear the answer. Maria finished her calculations. "Eliza," she said gently, "between the fake invoices, the cash skimming, and the fraudulent credit card charges, over the last 6 months, he has stolen $62,450. $62,000. The room tilted. I had been on the brink of bankruptcy, stressed out of my mind, thinking I** was the failure, that I had mismanaged my costs, that I was a bad businesswoman. And all along, my own brother had been bleeding me dry. robbing me blind, while smiling to my face and telling me to relax. And then, the final, brutal piece of the puzzle. "There's one more thing," Maria said, her face grim. "Your payroll taxes. He's been handling the payroll, right?" "Yes," I said, my voice numb. "He hasn't been paying them. Not correctly. He's been under withholding, probably to keep the paychecks looking bigger and avoid suspicion. Based on my calculations, you're looking at a pretty significant tax liability at the end of the year. Penalties, interest. It's going to be a mess, Eliza. A 5-figure mess, at least." I just sat there, the full weight of the catastrophe settling over me. He hadn't just stolen from my past, he had mortgaged my future. He hadn't just put me on the brink of bankruptcy. He had pushed me over the edge and was holding my head underwater. "What do I do?" I finally asked, the words feeling heavy and useless in my mouth. "You call the police," Maria said instantly. "This is felony embezzlement. You file a report, and you press charges." He's my brother," I whispered, the word tasting like poison. "He's a criminal," Maria countered, her voice firm. "Eliza, if you don't handle this, you will lose this restaurant. You will be held personally liable for that tax debt. You cannot let this go. You cannot protect him. Not this time." She was right. The rage was so profound, so cold, and so absolute. It burned away all the old, frayed edges of guilt and family obligation. This was not a cry for help. This was a calculated, devastating attack. "Okay," I said, standing up on shaky legs. "But first, I'm making one call." I called my parents. I told them to get to my restaurant. "It's an emergency," I said. "It's about Ryan. Get here, now." They arrived 20 minutes later, my mother's face, a mask of frantic worry, my father's looking gray and tired. "What is it?" my mother gasped, rushing in. "Is Ryan okay? Did something happen?" "Oh, something happened," I said, my voice as cold and flat as the stainless steel counters. I gestured for them to sit at a table, Maria standing silently beside me like a sentinel. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just laid the evidence out on the table in front of them, one piece of paper at a time. The fake invoices, the doctored register reports, the credit card statements, with premium sneaker drops and online gambling, highlighted in bright, angry yellow. "Eliza, what is this?" my dad asked, his voice trembling as he looked at the numbers. "This," I said, "is your sensitive son. This is my assistant manager. This is $62,000, and that's not even counting the tax fraud he's committed, which will likely cost me another $30,000. My mother's face went white. She looked from the papers to me, her mind clearly scrambling for a defense. This must be a mistake," she stammered. "Ryan wouldn't do this." "He did, Mom," I said, my voice breaking slightly despite my resolve. "He did it for 6 months. Every single day, while watching me work myself into the ground to keep this place afloat. He stole from me. He stole my dream." "Oh, Eliza," my mother started, the tears welling up, but not the kind I had expected. They weren't tears of empathy for me. They were tears of pity. For him, see him. He must have been desperate. He's just a boy. He's lost. You have to understand. He was under so much pressure. I just stared at her, my mind reeling. Pressure? He was under pressure? I'm the one on the hook for nearly $100,000 in debt. I'm the one who's about to lose everything I've ever worked for. And you're making excuses for him? He's your brother, Eliza, she wailed. You can't ruin him over this. It's just money. You're successful, you can afford it. You can make it back. It's just money. The 4 words that confirmed everything I had ever suspected about my place in this family. I was the ATM. I was the fixer. My success wasn't mine. It was a resource to be tapped. And my feelings, my work, my life, were all secondary to Ryan's sensitivity. "Dad?" I turned to my father, a last, desperate plea for sanity. "Are you hearing this? Are you going to sit there and let her say this?" My father just looked down at his hands, his face a miserable shade of gray. She's your mother, Eliza," he mumbled. "And he's your brother. Maybe we can just handle this quietly. As a family, you don't have to go to the police, do you? Think of his future." That was it. The final, devastating confirmation. Even now, faced with irrefutable proof of a felony, their only concern was protecting Ryan, protecting him from consequences, protecting him from innocence. "Okay," I said, my voice suddenly, terrifyingly calm. Maria looked at me, a question in her eyes. "Okay, Mom, you're right. It's a family matter. We'll handle it as a family." My mother's face flooded with relief. "Oh, thank you, baby. I knew you'd understand. We can set up a small payment plan." "No," I cut her off. "That's not what I mean." I turned to my father. "Dad, the house I grew up in. You've owned it for 40 years, right? It's paid off, isn't it? He looked confused. Yes, we paid it off a few years ago. Why? Good, I said. Because here's the family solution. You are going to take out a home equity loan for the full $92,000. You will give that money to me. You will pay for the mess your son made. You have enabled him, you have protected him, and now, you will finally take on the consequences of his actions. That is the only way I don't file a police report right now. My mother shrieked. The house? You want us to risk our house? Eliza, how could you be so heartless? Heartless? I roared, the calm finally shattering, a decade of suppressed rage pouring out of me. You are sitting here, in the ruins of my life's work, a business built, and you are defending the person who destroyed it. You are asking me to just absorb a nearly $100,000 loss that will bankrupt me, all to protect him. You want to talk about Heartless? You want to talk about family? This is the deal. You take on this debt, the debt incurred, or he goes to jail. You have 24 hours to decide. I pointed to the door. Now get out of my restaurant. The 24 hours that followed were the quietest, most excruciating of my life. I didn't hear from them. Not a call, not a text. The silence was its own kind of answer, a testament to the furious negotiations I knew must be happening at their house. I sat with Maria, my lawyer, and my remaining staff. I'd had to lay off 2 waiters and a prep cook immediately, a decision that felt like a physical amputation. We ran the numbers. Even if my parents agreed, the $92,000 would just barely cover the tax liability and the most urgent vendor debts. It wouldn't cover the stolen profits. It wouldn't bring back my staff. The restaurant was still on life support, and I was still at risk of losing it. This is a temporary fix, Eliza, Maria warned, her pen tapping a grim rhythm on the ledger. To truly save the business, you need a serious cash infusion, and you need to cut the cancer out, completely. I knew she was right, and I knew where the cancer was. Ryan wasn't just a financial drain. He was a symptom of a larger disease, a disease of enablement that had infected my entire family. On the 23rd hour, my father called. His voice was a dead monotone, stripped of all emotion. We agree, he said. The bank has pre-approved the home equity loan. We'll have the funds in 3 to 5 business days. Good, I said, feeling no sense of triumph, only a vast, empty relief. And Ryan? He's packing his things, my dad said, his voice cracking for the first time. We told him he can't live here anymore. He has to figure it out on his own. That's a start, I said. I'll have my lawyer draft a formal repayment agreement and a non-disclosure agreement. I don't want this becoming public, for the restaurant's sake. Thank you, Eliza, he whispered. I'm sorry. It was the first real apology I had ever heard from him, and it was so small and so late that it barely registered. The money came through. I paid the IRS, I paid my vendors, I paid my staff. I was back to zero, but at least I wasn't drowning in debt. The restaurant was saved, but just barely. It would be a long, hard climb to get back to where I had been. Ryan, apparently, had hit rock bottom. He moved into a seedy, month-to-month motel. His art career, officially over. He got a minimum wage job at a car wash. It was a harsh, brutal dose of the reality my parents had shielded him from his entire life. My mother, however, did not take this well. The loss of her golden boy, combined with the new, crushing weight of a loan on their home, broke something in her. She fell into a deep, bitter depression, but her sadness wasn't directed at Ryan for his betrayal. It was directed at me for enforcing the consequences. The phone calls started again, but this time, they weren't requests for money. They were quiet, venomous attacks. I hope you're happy, Eliza, she'd whisper into the phone. You've ruined us. Your father is a wreck. Your brother, he calls me crying every night. This is all your fault. My fault? I'd argue. Exhausted. Mom, he stole from me. But you didn't have to be so cruel, she'd cry. You didn't have to take our house. You had the money. You could have just forgiven him. Family is supposed to forgive. This went on for weeks. Her guilt trips were a constant, toxic drip, eroding the fragile peace I was trying to build. I blocked her number, but she started calling from my dad's phone. I stopped answering calls from their home number altogether. Then, she escalated. She started talking to my extended family. She spun a tragic tale of a cold, heartless daughter who had financially destroyed her own loving parents and cast her troubled brother out onto the street, all over a simple misunderstanding about money. And because I had insisted on an NDA to protect the restaurant's reputation, I couldn't even defend myself. I couldn't share the evidence. I was trapped in her narrative. My aunts, my uncles, my cousins, people I had loved, people I had grown up with, started sending me cold, disappointed messages. I'm so disappointed in you, Eliza. How could you do that to your own mother? Your father's health is fragile. You'll be the death of him. I was being gaslit by my entire family, isolated and painted as the villain in a story where I was the primary victim. The stress was unbearable. My restaurant, which should have been my sanctuary, now felt like a prison, a constant reminder of what I had sacrificed and what I had lost. I began to hate it. I began to hate the work, the food, the very thing I had once loved more than anything. One night, after a brutal 16-hour shift, I was sitting in my dark, empty restaurant, just crying, when Maria, my accountant, stopped by with some paperwork. She found me with my head in my hands. "Eliza," she said, sitting down across from me, "this has to stop. They are killing you. This isn't just about the money anymore. They are emotionally bankrupting you." "I know," I whispered, "but what can I do? They're my family. They've poisoned everyone against me." "So change the narrative," she said, her voice firm. "You're a brilliant marketing woman, for God's sake. Market your own truth. You're holding all the cards, Eliza. You have the NDA, but asterisk, they signed it too. What happens if they are the ones who break it?" A new, cold, and beautifully simple idea began to form in my mind. "They're already breaking it," I said, a slow smile spreading across my face. "They're slandering me to the entire family. They're violating the spirit, if not the letter, of the agreement every single day." "Exactly," Maria said, a glint in her eye. "So what are you going to do about it?" "I'm going to set a trap," I said, my mind suddenly clear, the old, familiar fire of strategic thinking returning. "And this time, I'm going to make sure they all walk right into it." My plan was simple, and it required a bit of a performance. I unblocked my mother's number. It took less than a day for her to call. "Eliza?" she said, sounding surprised and wary. "Mom," I said, my voice carefully pitched to sound defeated, exhausted, and, most importantly, guilty. I can't do this anymore. This fighting, it's too much." There was a pause. I could almost hear the gears turning in her head, sensing weakness. What do you mean, honey?" she asked, her voice softening, but not with empathy, with the going in for the kill tone I knew so well. "I mean, you were right," I said, letting my voice crack. "I was too harsh. He's my brother. You're my family. I want to fix this. I want to make it right." "Oh, Eliza," she breathed, the relief and triumph in her voice making me sick to my stomach. "I knew you'd come to your senses. I told your father you just needed time. I want to help. With the loan," I continued, feeding the lie. And I want to help Ryan. I want to give him a real second chance." "What are you saying?" she asked, her voice sharp with anticipation. I'm selling the restaurant," I lied. "It's just too much, too many bad memories. I'm getting a good offer, and I want to give you and Dad a significant portion of the sale to pay off the house and help Ryan get that art career he always wanted." The silence on the other end was deafening. I had just offered them the winning lottery ticket, validating every ounce of their toxic, entitled worldview. You're selling the Juniper?" she finally whispered. For us? For the family," I said. I want us to be a family again." The transformation was instantaneous. My mother, the grieving victim, became the magnanimous victor. "Oh, Eliza, that is the most wonderful, generous thing. I knew you were a good daughter. I'll call your father. I'll call Ryan. This is the answer to our prayers." We set a date for a reconciliation dinner at their house the following Sunday. I told her I would bring the initial paperwork, a gesture of my good faith. "Everyone will be there." She gushed. "Your aunts, your uncles. We'll tell them the wonderful news. This will clear up everything, all those nasty rumors." "Perfect," I said. "I can't wait." I spent the next week preparing. I didn't contact a lawyer. I didn't need one. I was just gathering my marketing materials. I set up a small, hidden audio recorder in my purse. I also prepared a single, simple document, a new, ironclad repayment agreement for the full $92,000. But this time, with a personal guarantee from my parents, pledging their house as collateral, and timed, a personal guarantee from Ryan, pledging 50% of his future earnings from any source until the debt was paid in full. It was an outrageous, absurd document no sane person would ever sign. But I wasn't dealing with sane people. I was dealing with greedy, desperate people who thought they were about to get a massive payday. I arrived at their house on Sunday. It was like a victory celebration. My aunts and uncles who had been shunning me for weeks now hugged me, patting me on the back, telling me how proud they were that I was doing the right thing. My mother was holding court in the kitchen, beaming. My dad was shaking everyone's hand. And Ryan looked like he had won the lottery. He was back to his old, charming self, talking animatedly about his new vision for an art installation. After dinner, my mother clinked her glass. "A toast," she announced, "to our daughter, Eliza, to her incredible generosity, and to family, finally coming back together." Everyone clapped. It was nauseating. "Eliza, honey," my mother said, gesturing to me, "tell everyone the wonderful news about your plans for the sale of the restaurant." I stood up, smoothing my dress. I clicked on the small audio recorder in my pocket. "Thank you, Mom," I said, my voice clear and strong. "It's true. I've been thinking a lot about the restaurant, and I do want to make a big change." I looked around at their smiling, expectant faces. "For 6 months," I began, my voice hardening, "this family has been telling everyone a story. A story about a cold, heartless daughter who bankrupted her parents and abandoned her brother over a, quote, simple misunderstanding. A story where cold, I am the villain." The smiles began to falter. My mother's face tightened. "Eliza, what are you doing?" "I'm just correcting the narrative," I said. "You see, you all seem to believe that Simbrel am the one who owes you something, that I should be generous and forgive the fact that my brother, with your full knowledge and protection, embezzled nearly $100,000 from my business, a crime for which he could serve serious prison time." The room went dead silent. My aunts and uncles looked confused, glancing at my mother, who was now sheet white. "What is she talking about, Diane?" my Uncle Robert asked, his voice low. "She's lying," Ryan shouted, jumping to his feet. "She's making it up." "Am I?" I asked calmly. I pulled the small audio recorder from my pocket and held it up. "Because I have right here a recording of my mother, from 4 days ago, acknowledging the full extent of the debt, admitting her role in covering it up, and celebrating my generosity in agreeing to sell my business to pay for your crimes. In doing so, she has very clearly broken the non-disclosure agreement we all signed, which, by the way, voids any protection it ever offered you." My mother looked like she was going to faint. My dad just stared at me, his mouth open. "I didn't sell my restaurant," I continued, my voice ringing with clarity. "I would rather burn it to the ground with my own hands than give one more penny to the people who tried to destroy it. This dinner wasn't a reconciliation. It was a deposition, and you all just gave me exactly what I needed." I turned to my aunts and uncles. "The story my mother told you was a lie to cover up a felony. I have the bank records, the fake invoices, and now I have this." I held up the recorder. "I am the victim here, and I am done being silent. I didn't need to do anything else. The family imploded on its own." My Uncle Robert, a man who valued integrity above all else, was the first to speak, his voice shaking with rage as he looked at my parents. "Diane," he said, "is this true? Did you cover up a asterisk felony? Did you lie to all of us?" My mother just burst into tears. My dad put his face in his hands. Ryan, seeing his shield had vanished, bolted out the back door. The aftermath was catastrophic for them. Uncle Robert, the patriarch of the family, was incensed. He was the executor of another, larger family trust from my great-grandparents. He immediately began legal proceedings to have my parents and Ryan disinherited, citing the morality clause that prohibited actions that bring significant public shame or financial harm to the family name. My aunts and uncles, furious at having been lied to and used as pawns in my mother's smear campaign, cut them off completely. The social isolation was total. My parents were forced to sell their house after all, without my $1,200. And now without the support or even the social interaction of their extended family, they couldn't sustain it. They moved into a small, bleak rental apartment in a different town. My dad, humiliated, took a job as a part-time bookkeeper. My mother, for the first time in her life, had to get a real full-time job, working as a cashier at a craft store. And Ryan? He truly hit rock bottom. With no family to enable him, no money, and now a reputation that preceded him, he was truly on his own. The last I heard, he was working at a car wash, the same one from my ultimatum, and living in a halfway house. I didn't get my money back. Not the $92,000 they had already forced me to take from their home equity. But I got something better. I got my life back. I got my name back. And I got my peace. My restaurant, the Juniper, is thriving. With the toxic drain on my life finally gone, I've been able to expand. We're opening a second location next spring. My relationship with my extended family has been slowly, cautiously rebuilt, this time on a foundation of truth. They see me now, not as the difficult one, but as the one who had the courage to finally stop the rot. I never wanted to destroy my family, but they forced my hand. They forgot that the responsible one is also the one who keeps all the records, the one who understands the contracts, the one who knows exactly where all the bodies are buried. They thought I was their safety net. They never stopped to think that I could also be the one to finally, decisively cut the cord.